Captain Jake Morrison sat in his command chair aboard the human ship New Horizon. The stars outside looked peaceful, but Jake knew better. Space was never truly peaceful. His ship was on patrol duty near the outer rim, far from Earth and the known. Busy trade routes. It was quiet work, but someone had to do it. The bridge was small but efficient. Lisa Grant worked at the tactical station, her fingers dancing over the controls as she monitored nearby space. Pete Rodriguez was down in engineering, keeping their old ship running smooth. Amy Carter handled communications from her station near the back wall. They were a good crew. Jake trusted them with his life. The year was 2387, and humans had been part of the Galactic Federation for almost 200 years. But even now, most alien species looked at humans with fear and disgust. They called Earth a death world. They said only dangerous creatures could survive on such a hostile planet. Jake thought that was unfair, but he understood why they felt. That way. Earth was different from most planets in the galaxy. It had violent weather, deadly animals, and diseases that could kill in days. Most alien worlds were gentle places with calm weather and peaceful creatures. When they learned about Earth's hurricanes, earthquakes, and predators, they were horrified. How could anything intelligent evolve in such a nightmare place? But humans had evolved there. They had learned to adapt, to fight, to survive against impossible odds. This made other species nervous. If humans could survive Earth, what else could they do? Amy Carter suddenly looked up from her station. "Captain, I'm picking up a distress signal." Jake turned in his chair. "Where from?" "It's coming from the Zelani system. The signal is weak, but it's definitely a call for help." Jake frowned. The Zelani were one of the most peaceful species in the galaxy. They were healers and philosophers, not fighters. Their technology was focused on medicine and growing food, not weapons. What could threaten them? "Put it on speaker," Jake ordered. Bridge filled with static, and a voice came through. The translator turned the alien words into English, but Jake could hear the panic underneath. "This is Elder Morkesh of the Zelani Council. Our world is under attack. The Korthic Empire has invaded our system. They demand we surrender our healing technology and become their slaves. We are a peaceful people. We have no weapons to fight them. Please, anyone who receives this message, we need help. Our children are dying. Our cities are burning. We have perhaps days before we fall completely." The message repeated twice more, then cut to static. The bridge was silent. Jake stared at the speaker, his mind racing. The Korthic Empire was known throughout this sector. They were aggressive, warlike, and constantly expanding their territory. They took what they wanted and destroyed anyone who resisted. Lisa Grant turned from her station. "Captain, the Zelani are 3 days away at maximum speed. If we leave now... We're not Federation military," Pete Rodriguez said over the comm from engineering. "We're just a patrol ship. What can we do against an entire Korthic fleet?" Jake stood up and walked to the main view screen. Outside, the stars looked the same as always. But somewhere out there, innocent people were dying while their attackers took everything they had built over thousands of years. "Amy, send a message to Federation Command. Tell them about the Zelani distress call. Ask for immediate military response." Amy worked at her console for several minutes. Then she shook her head. "No response yet, Captain. But based on our last briefing, the Federation Council is in session for the next week. They're debating new trade regulations." Jake felt anger rise in his chest. The Federation Council loved to debate. They could spend months discussing whether to help someone, always worried about the political consequences. By the time they decided to act, the Zelani would be extinct. "Lisa, how many human ships are in this sector?" Lisa checked her screens. "At least 20, Captain. maybe more. The cargo hauler Mountain View is 2 days from here. The research vessel, Deep Thought, is working in the asteroid fields near Proxima Station. And I'm picking up transponder signals from several others. Jake made his decision. He had been in space for 15 years. He had seen what happened when good people did nothing, while evil people acted. The Federation might be too scared to help the Zilani, but humans were different. Humans understood that sometimes you had to fight for what was right. Amy, open a channel to all human vessels in the sector. Use emergency frequency 7. Channel open, Captain. Jake took a deep breath. What he was about to do would probably end his career. The Federation didn't like it when member species acted without permission. But some things were more important than careers. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel New Horizon. I'm sending you all a distress call we just received from the Zilani homeworld. They're under attack by the Korthic Empire and facing extinction. The Federation isn't responding. But we can respond. We're going to help them. Any human ship that wants to join us should set course for the Zilani system immediately. We leave in 1 hour. He paused, then added something his grandfather used to say. His grandfather had been a soldier in one of Earth's old wars. The cavalry is coming. Jake closed the channel and turned to his crew. Lisa was smiling. Pete had come up from engineering and was grinning. Amy was already plotting a course to the Zilani system. You sure about this, Captain? Pete asked. The Federation won't like us acting without orders. The Federation can complain later, Jake replied. Right now, people need help. That's what humans do. We help. Over the next hour, responses came in from across the sector. The cargo ship, Mountain View, changed course to join them. The research vessel Deep Thought abandoned its work and headed for Zilani space. A mining ship called Earth's Pride left its asteroid field and fired up its engines. One by one, human ships answered the call. By the time the New Horizon jumped faster than light speed, 23 human vessels were racing toward the Zilani system. They weren't military ships. Most were just ordinary people doing ordinary jobs. But they had heard the call for help, and they were answering. Jake sat back in his command chair as the stars stretched into lines around them. The Korthic Empire was about to learn something important about humans. They weren't just survivors from a death world. They were protectors. And when protectors heard someone calling for help, they came running. Admiral Ryan Hayes received Captain Morrison's message while he was drinking coffee in his office on Mars Station. The orbital facility served as headquarters for the Earth Defense Force, and Ryan had been reviewing supply reports when the emergency communication came through. He set down his coffee cup and read the message twice. The Zilani were dying. The Federation was doing nothing. And Captain Morrison had just committed 23 human ships to an unauthorized rescue mission. Ryan smiled. Morrison was going to get in serious trouble with Federation command, but the man was doing the right thing. Sometimes doing the right thing meant breaking the rules. Computer, connect me with General Kevin Stone and Admiral Maya Johnson. Priority 1. The holographic display activated, showing the faces of his 2 top commanders. General Stone was on Earth, overseeing the marine training facilities. Admiral Johnson was aboard the dreadnought Terran Justice, conducting fleet exercises near Jupiter. We have a situation, Ryan began. He explained about the Zilani distress call and Morrison's response. I'm authorizing Operation Thunderstrike. We're going to support our people. General Stone leaned forward. How many ships can we deploy without leaving Earth defenseless? Maya, what's our current fleet status? Ryan asked. Admiral Johnson checked her screens. We have 47 combat vessels available for immediate deployment. The Terran Justice can lead the main battle group. Captain Nicole Brooks has been running her crew through combat drills all week. They're ready. What about stealth capabilities? Ryan asked. Commander Alex Thompson's Shadowrunner is in the outer system. His ship is perfect for reconnaissance and surprise attacks. The Korthik won't see them coming. Ryan nodded. The Shadowrunner was humanity's newest stealth frigate. It used technology that most alien species thought was impossible. Humans had learned to bend light and sound in ways that confused enemy sensors. General, what about ground forces? Kevin Stone smiled grimly. The 3rd Marine Division is on standby. Colonel Tim Murphy has been training them for hostile environment operations. If we need boots on the ground, his people can handle anything the Korthik throw at them. Ryan made his decision. Launch Operation Thunderstrike. Full mobilization. I want every available ship heading for Zelani space within 6 hours. The next few hours were chaos. All across the solar system, human military vessels received their orders and began moving. The massive dreadnought Terran Justice fired up its engines and left Jupiter orbit with a fleet of smaller ships following behind. From Mars, a squadron of attack cruisers led by Captain Bobby Turner launched toward the outer system. From Earth itself, Admiral Johnson's flagship carrier departed with a full wing of fighter craft. But it wasn't just military ships that answered the call. When word spread through the human colonies, civilian vessels began volunteering. Dr. Helen Parker commanded the hospital ship Mercy's Edge, and she immediately changed course to join the fleet. Her medical facilities could treat thousands of wounded, both human and alien. The response surprised even Ryan Hayes. Within 12 hours, over 200 human ships were racing towards Zelani space. It was the largest human fleet ever assembled outside of Earth's solar system. Meanwhile, in Korthik space, War Commander Zek Tal was celebrating his easy victory. The Zelani had fallen even faster than he had expected. Their pacifist nature made them pathetic opponents. They had weapons, but refused to use them effectively. They worried more about avoiding civilian casualties than winning battles. Zek Tal stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking down at the Zelani homeworld through the view screen. Several cities were burning, sending smoke columns into the atmosphere. His troops were already collecting Zelani healing technology and rounding up the most skilled medical workers to serve as slaves. War Commander, his tactical officer reported, were detecting ships approaching the system. Zek Tal turned. Federation vessels? Unknown. The signatures don't match any Federation military ships in our database. Zek Tal laughed. Probably. Some merchant vessels fleeing the system. Let them go. We have what we came for. But his tactical officer looked worried. Sir, there are a lot of them. At least 50 ships, maybe more. And they're not running away. They're heading straight for us, the war commander frowned. 50 ships was more than a merchant convoy. It was a fleet. But who would dare challenge the Korthik Empire? The Federation was too weak and cautious. The other major powers were too far away to care about one small planet. Identify those ships, he ordered. Working on it, sir. The lead vessels are. They appear to be human. Zek Tal blinked. Human? The Deathworlders? Yes, sir. We're detecting human technology signatures from multiple vessels. The war commander relaxed. Humans were dangerous in individual combat, but they were not a major military power. They had a small fleet and limited resources. 50 human ships against his 200 Korthak vessels was hardly a fair fight. How quaint, Zek Tal said. The Deathworlders think they can rescue their precious Zelani friends. Signal the fleet. We'll crush these primitives quickly, then finish harvesting this planet. But as more reports came in, Zek Tal's confidence began to fade. The human fleet wasn't just 50 ships. It was growing larger by the hour as more vessels arrived. And they weren't flying in the careful formations that most species used. They were spread out in a chaotic pattern that made no tactical sense. War Commander. His communications officer called out, "We're receiving a transmission from the human fleet." Put it through. The main screen changed to show a human face. The man wore the uniform of an Earth Defense Force admiral. His expression was cold and determined. "This is Admiral Ryan Hayes of the Earth Defense Force. You are attacking innocent civilians. Withdraw from Zelani space immediately, or we will force you to withdraw." Zektal laughed. "Admiral Hayes, you are greatly outnumbered. I have 200 ships to your 50. Surrender now, and I might let some of your crews live as slaves." The human admiral's expression didn't change. "War Commander, you misunderstand the situation. We don't have 50 ships. We have over 200, and more are arriving every hour. But numbers aren't what should worry you." "Then what should worry me?" Admiral Hayes smiled, and there was something in that smile that made Zektal's blood run cold. "You should worry about what happens when you threaten someone that humans have decided to protect." The transmission ended. On his tactical display, Zektal watched the human fleet spread out around his forces. They moved with a coordination that seemed impossible for such a chaotic formation. It was like watching a pack of predators surround their prey. For the first time since the invasion began, War Commander Zektal felt afraid. The Battle of Zelani Prime began at dawn on the planet's main continent. War Commander Zektal expected the humans to attack like other species did, with long-range weapons and careful formations. He was wrong. Captain Danny Foster led the first wave of human Marines in a move that shocked everyone watching. Instead of firing from a safe distance, his ships flew straight at the Korthik vessels. When they got close enough, the human Marines did something no other species would try. They left their ships and boarded the enemy vessels in open space. The Korthik soldiers couldn't believe what they were seeing. Humans were floating through vacuum in simple spacesuits, cutting through metal walls with handheld tools, and fighting in zero gravity like it was normal. Most alien species needed heavy protective gear and life support systems to work in space. Humans treated it like swimming in a dangerous pool. Foster's Marines moved through the Korthik ships like ghosts. They knew exactly where to strike to disable engines, weapons, and life support. The Korthik had evolved on a world with low gravity and thin atmosphere. They had never learned to fight in the harsh conditions that humans called normal. "Target their command deck," Foster shouted over the radio as his team cut through another bulkhead. "Take out their communications, and they can't coordinate with the rest of the fleet." The Korthik soldiers fired their energy weapons, but the humans were already moving. They used the ship's own structure as cover, turning corners and using maintenance shafts that the larger Korthik couldn't fit through. Within an hour, Foster's Marines had captured 3 enemy vessels and disabled 5 more. But the real surprise came from Admiral Johnson's carrier group. While the Marines were boarding enemy ships, human fighter pilots were doing something that made the Korthik tactical computers crash. They were using the planet's gravity well as a weapon. Lieutenant Sarah Mitchell led her squadron in a dive toward the planet's surface, with Korthik fighters chasing behind her. The enemy pilots thought the humans were retreating. They were wrong. At the last possible moment, Mitchell pulled up and used the planet's gravity to slingshot her fighters back at the enemy. The sudden change in direction and speed caught the Korthik completely off guard. "Break left and climb," Mitchell ordered. Her pilots used the gravity differential to confuse their targeting systems. The human fighters danced around the planet's gravity field like dolphins playing in ocean currents. The Korthik pilots, used to fighting in empty space with simple straight-line tactics, couldn't adapt fast enough. Within 2 hours, the human fighters had destroyed or disabled most of the enemy air support. On the planet's surface, the situation was even worse for the Korthik. Colonel Tim Murphy's Marines had landed in the middle of a thunderstorm. Most species would wait for better weather, but humans had learned to use bad weather as an advantage. The storm provided perfect cover for the human assault. Lightning confused the Korthik sensors, while heavy rain made their energy weapons less effective. Murphy's soldiers moved through the storm like it was a sunny day, their equipment designed to work in conditions that would kill most aliens. The enemy command center is 2 kilometers north, Murphy told his squad leaders over the radio. They're hiding in that crystal formation, thinking the lightning will keep us away. The Korthik had chosen their command post well. The crystal formation would protect them from the storm and give them a clear view of the surrounding area. What they didn't understand was that humans had been fighting in storms for thousands of years. Murphy's soldiers used the lightning itself as a weapon. They placed metal rods in strategic positions, turning the natural electrical discharge into a directed attack on the enemy position. The Korthik equipment overloaded and failed, leaving them blind and helpless. Meanwhile, Commander Alex Thompson's stealth ship Shadowrunner was doing what it did best. The ship appeared on Korthik sensors for just a few seconds, long enough to fire a precise shot at a key target, then vanished again. The enemy couldn't track something they couldn't see, and Thompson used that advantage ruthlessly. Target acquired, Thompson said calmly as another Korthik command ship appeared on his display, firing. The Shadowrunner's weapons were designed for surgical strikes. Instead of trying to destroy the entire ship, they targeted specific systems: engines, weapons, communications, life support. Each shot was placed exactly where it would do the most damage with the least waste. The Korthik fleet began to fall apart. Ships lost power and drifted helpless. Communications failed, leaving units isolated and confused. Weapon systems overloaded and shut down. The humans weren't just winning, they were systematically dismantling the enemy's ability to fight. Doctor Helen Parker watched the battle from her medical ship, treating wounded as they arrived. Her patients included human Marines, rescued Zelani civilians, and even captured Korthik soldiers. She treated them all with the same professional care. "Doctor, we have incoming wounded from the surface," her chief nurse reported. "Mixed casualties. Human and Zelani," Parker nodded. "Prep Trauma Bay 3 for the humans, and Trauma Bay 4 for the Zelani. Their biology is different, so keep the medical scatters separated." What amazed the Zelani observers was how quickly the humans could switch from deadly warriors to gentle healers. The same Marines who had been fighting in vacuum an hour ago were now carefully carrying wounded civilians to safety. The fighter pilots who had been destroying enemy ships were now flying evacuation missions through active combat zones. Elder Morkesh, the Zelani leader who had sent the original distress call, watched from his shelter as human soldiers brought his people to safety. He had never seen anything like it. These Deathworlders fought with terrifying efficiency, but they also showed incredible compassion for those who needed help. The turning point came when War Commander Zektal realized his fleet was losing. In desperation, he made a decision that would seal his fate. If he couldn't defeat the humans in battle, he would force them to surrender by threatening innocent lives. "All ships, target the Zelani population centers," he ordered. "Prepare orbital bombardment. If the humans don't, withdraw immediately. We will gloss this planet." The transmission was picked up by every human ship in the system. For a moment, there was complete silence on all frequencies. Then Admiral Hayes' voice came through, cold and hard as space itself. "All units, this is Admiral Hayes. The enemy has just threatened to murder civilians. Code Black is now in effect. No quarter, no mercy. End them." Something changed in the human fleet at that moment. The tactical displays showed it clearly. Human ships that had been fighting with restraint suddenly became something else entirely. They moved faster, hit harder, and showed no hesitation. War Commander Zeke Tal had just made the worst mistake of his life. He had threatened to hurt innocent people in front of humans. Now he was going to learn what Deathworlders did to those who threatened the helpless. What happened next terrified everyone who witnessed it, including the humans themselves. When Admiral Hayes gave the order for no quarter, the human fleet transformed into something that no alien species had ever seen before. They stopped being soldiers and became something primal and unstoppable. Captain Bobby Turner led the deep strike missions that followed. His attack cruisers moved through space like hunting wolves, targeting not just the Korthic fleet at Zelani Prime, but their supply lines across 3 star systems. Turner's ships appeared without warning at Korthic supply depots, destroyed everything military, and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. Target destroyed, Turner reported after eliminating another Korthic ammunition depot. Moving to next objective. The Korthic had never faced an enemy that could strike so far behind their lines so quickly. Their military doctrine was based on overwhelming force applied to a single location. They had no idea how to fight an opponent that attacked everywhere at once. Commander Jennifer Walsh coordinated the cyber warfare from her technical ship. She had found a weakness in Korthic computer systems that other species had missed. The Korthic used centralized control for all their automated systems. If you could break into their network, you could turn their own defenses against them. "I'm in their main battle computer," Walsh reported to Admiral Hayes, "uploading the virus now." Within minutes, Korthic ships began firing on each other. Their automated defense turrets turned on their own vessels. Life support systems shut down randomly. Navigation computers gave false readings that sent ships crashing into asteroids. The Korthic fleet fell apart from the inside, but the most shocking transformation came from the ground forces. Colonel Murphy's Marines had been professional soldiers before the Code Black Order. After it, they became something that made even veteran Korthic warriors run in terror. They moved through enemy positions like a force of nature, unstoppable and merciless. The Korthic had expected human ground troops to be tough but predictable. Instead, they found enemies who used the planet itself as a weapon. Murphy's soldiers collapsed tunnels to trap enemy units underground. They redirected rivers to flood Korthic positions. They started controlled avalanches that buried entire enemy camps. "Sector 7 is clear," Murphy reported. Enemy forces eliminated or surrendered. War Commander Zektal watched his empire crumble from his flagship bridge. In less than 6 hours, the humans had destroyed 3/4 of his fleet and eliminated his ground forces completely. His supply lines were gone. His communications were compromised. His automated defenses were attacking his own ships. "How is this possible?" he demanded of his tactical officer. "Sir, the humans fight like no species we have ever encountered. They use tactics that our computers cannot predict. They turn every disadvantage into an advantage. They make weapons out of things that should not be weapons." Zektal stared at the tactical display. The human fleet was closing in on his position, and he had nothing left to stop them. His dreams of conquest were dead. His empire was broken. All because he had threatened to hurt innocent civilians in front of the wrong species dot. But then something unexpected happened. Just as the human ships reached firing range, they stopped. Admiral Hayes opened a communication channel. "War Commander. Zektal, this is Admiral Hayes. You have 2 choices. Surrender immediately and face trial for war crimes, or be destroyed where you sit." Zektal looked around his bridge. His officers were staring at him, waiting for orders. He could fight to the death, but that would only get his remaining people killed for nothing. The humans had already proven they could destroy his forces. "At will, I surrender," Zektal said quietly. The moment the Korthic surrender was confirmed, something amazing happened. The same human forces that had been acting like unstoppable destroyers immediately switched back to being protectors and healers. Dr. Parker's medical teams began treating Korthik wounded alongside everyone else. Engineering crews started rebuilding damaged Zelani infrastructure before the fires had stopped burning. Captain Morrison, whose original distress call had started everything, found himself coordinating refugee camps on the planet's surface. Human soldiers who had been eliminating enemy positions hours earlier were now distributing food and medical supplies to displaced families. Elder Morkesh of the Zelani Council watched this transformation with wonder. He approached Captain Morrison at one of the aid stations where humans were helping Zelani children who had lost their parents. "I do not understand," the elderly alien said. "Your people can switch from total war to complete compassion in moments. How is this possible?" Morrison looked up from the young Zelani girl he was helping to eat. "We fight because we have to, not because we want to. When the fighting is over, we do what we can to fix what was broken. But you are so efficient at warfare. Your species could conquer the galaxy if you chose to." Morrison shook his head. "That's not who we are. We fight to protect people, not to control them. There's a difference." 3 weeks later, Captain Morrison stood before the Federation Council on their home station. The assembled alien representatives were angry about humanity's unauthorized military action. They had spent days lecturing him about proper procedures and diplomatic protocols. "Captain Morrison," the council speaker said, "you acted without Federation approval. You committed acts of war against the sovereign empire. You violated numerous treaties and regulations." Morrison stood at attention. "Yes, sir, I did. Do you have anything to say in your defense?" Morrison looked around the chamber at all the alien faces staring down at him. Some looked angry. Some looked afraid. A few looked curious about what he would say. "The Zelani asked for help. We gave it to them. That's what humans do." The council speaker leaned forward. "And what if the Federation decides to punish Earth for these actions?" Morrison met his gaze steadily. "Then you'll learn what happens. When you threaten people that humans have decided to protect." The chamber fell silent. After a long moment, the Zelani representative stood up. "The Zelani Council formally requests that Earth become our protector species," Elder Morkesh announced. "We trust the humans to defend us better than anyone else in the galaxy." Over the next few hours, representatives from 12 other peaceful species made similar requests. They had watched what humans did to protect the Zelani, and they wanted that protection for themselves. The Federation Council realized they had been thinking about humans all wrong. Humans weren't dangerous because they were violent. They were dangerous because they cared. When someone they protected was threatened, they would do absolutely anything to keep them safe. Admiral Hayes looked out at the human fleet now permanently stationed in the Outer Rim territories. Ships from Earth Defense Force, along with volunteers from across human space, patrolled the borders of their new protectorates. They were ready to answer any call for help from anyone who needed it. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. When innocent people called for help, the Deathworlders would answer with everything they had. And that made the universe a safer place for everyone.